Morning, Mr. Bickley.
Good
Nathan
morning.
From
Good morning.
Award Medals. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Want to invite you in today to say, well, thank you for the service that you've done in the past, and to also just to have a conversation about what that service looked like before joining up, why you may have joined, what service you joined, which is quite important. You can see it as
Air Force,
on your lapel badges there. And then we'll just have a chat about what you did when you were in, and importantly what you did when you left, how you found that transition, and then what you've been doing post that, and what you're doing now, and just have a general conversation. Introduce yourself to our followers here at Award, and also just to shine a light to the rest of to people, really, to see what service our veterans have done in the past. And obviously we had a chat probably a couple of months ago now when you came in and you had your medals remounted, and I found that it was at that time when I was I think it was February or January, February, and in February month is a month for the military to talk about the transition from the military into civilian life, and how difficult sometimes that can be. And we had a chat about how we found it, and I thought to myself then, do you know what, it'd be great to come in and get your you to come in and to have a bit of a chat and an interview about, and a conversation about it. So you joined the RAF.
Yes, for Air Force, yeah.
When was
that? Was in 78.
78.
I joined, and I was very much I didn't know what to do. I was working with Tesco at the time, Tesco furniture sales as it was. So I was a salesman.
As in Tesco that we know, low
yeah,
and low and
Tesco that you know
furniture.
used to do furniture.
Right.
They did a lot of Schreiber and things like that, and you know, it didn't last very long with Tesco's. They went into the food side of it, but before then, at Ely, where effectively I lived, we had a careers office, and one of the days I was just walking by and I thought, you know, I'm not going to be a salesman for the rest of my days. What can I do? So I brought in a folder with my qualifications in, and basically
And
walked
at that
in
age
the door.
you were, how
I
old were you
was 17 and a half.
then? So not very, qualifications about it, that's about it, right?
Yeah, really, I
experience.
got my college stuff and that was about it. And basically the RAF, my parents were both in the RAF for a while, medics, and I had two brothers, one in electronics, one propulsions, in the Air Force. So I wanted to do something different anyway. And anyway, they looked at my folder, looked at my qualifications, seen that I'd been to Tech College, and from then onwards, the guy said, "Here's the book. Basically, look, you can pick any trade you want." And being the thickie that I was at the time, I came across armourer, and I didn't know what an armourer was. And the guy said to me at the time, he says he plays with bombs and he blows up things. I said, well, I'm going to have that. That works for me. So I ended up joining the Air Force. And from there, effectively, my career, I went to Halton for my basic training. And there I learned the basic armament bits and bobs. And from that, I was posted to Hornington, was my first station. And I very quickly, even though I was on small arms, I very quickly got involved in the bomb disposal side of it.
Right.
So I moved from the small arms to the roll bay, and the roll bay is basically equipment that's anything that hangs under the aircraft, basically.
Oh, right, okay.
Is roll equipment, and in our case they were back in the day they were hunters and, dare I say, buccaneers. They were really old aircraft, but that's what we had. That was the standard equipment back then, and we basically I was involved in the roll bay with that, and then we would go out. My training started for bomb disposal. We went out to Hull Beach Range, and we used to go there every week and blow up any munitions that had been dropped from aircraft that hadn't gone off. So that's how I really got into it.
So why did you said your brothers
Yeah,
were in the RAF,
brothers. Yeah,
but you said you wanted to do something different,
yes.
but you didn't. You joined the RAF.
I joined
And
the
for
RAF.
me, being a thicky army person, you know, the
Yeah.
RAF is all one thing.
Yes.
But you talked about being an armourer and you like to blow up stuff. I was in the engineers,
Yes.
you know, and I used to try and blow up stuff, not very often. But yeah, that's why I joined the engineers, to do the same.
Same.
So why did you choose the RAF rather than the army or
Two reasons for that. The first of all, the RAF side of things is a more modern, should I say, than the Army and the Navy. I didn't like the idea of ships. I get seasick of the ship in harbour. So, and I didn't like the idea of the Army side of things, of being digging a hole and living in the hole, and then 3 hours later moving 20 feet and digging another hole.
Well,
So,
and in 1978,
yeah,
I guess that was almost, well, probably the height of the Cold War.
yes,
You
yeah.
still would have Vietnam on just. No,
Vietnam was just about finished then,
yeah. But so that would have, you know, that would be forefront of your mind. The Cold War in Germany, you know, doing what heavy armour, I suppose, is what the army was at those stages.
Yeah.
You know, but so I can see why you'd chosen that. And the armourer side of things, from my view, when I was in, you know, the armour was probably in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. I think it was in the REME armourer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they just used to look after your rifles and your.
Right,
your
okay.
and, I say that's my exposure to an armourer. So
Right.
it's interesting that you're talking about, you know, started off I think with rifles, but then moved into munitions.
Armourers do a variety. So we start off with think of the things an armourer does. Ejection seats in aircraft. That's
Really?
all armourers.
Right.
The disarming and the explosive cartridges, rocket packs nowadays, you know, all that sort of thing is all done by armourers.
Right.
So you can imagine there's the small arms side, there's the munition sides of anything from practice weapons up to 1,000-pounders, cluster bombs, that sort of thing. I did a stint on the nuclear deterrent for 4 years. So there's a wide range for armourers to do, and I finished my career in research and development. So there's a lot of scope. An armourer, as you see him in the army, he doesn't just deal with small arms. He deals with a wide variety. You think of like reconnaissance aircraft, flares, sonar buoys, they're all ejected out of aircraft, and so they're using normally either pneumatic or explosives to get them out of the aircraft.
So you said you left as in R&D. When did you leave?
I left in 93.
93.
So I did 15 years in the Air Force, and I left at the rank of corporal. I was under options for change, and I was a bit disappointed really with the way veterans were treated. When I wasn't given full enough information when I left under options for change.
Right.
But the primary criteria, I was due my third, so sergeants I was due, and I went and saw the chief clerk, and the chief clerk said, "There's no promotions in your trade for 10 years because of the cutbacks." So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to finish my career in the Air Force as a corporal, and to that end, I decided to came out. I was at the age where I had to come out to retrain because effectively I was going to work mine clearance abroad, and the wife didn't think much of that idea. Christine didn't think much of that idea. So I ended up.
Was this when you left? You were thinking about
that was the
clearance,
reason I was going to leave.
Right.
Because I thought, what else can I do as an armourer?
Yeah.
You know, really nothing as an armourer. So it split into two ways. First of all, when I came out, I ended up getting a job opportunity that I didn't think I would, and that was an electronics engineer at factory.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I walked into and I did the interview and I said, look, you know, wow. Well, first of all, it was the glass industry. I know nothing about glass. I know nothing about your machinery. You're wasting my time, and I'm sure as hell wasting your time.
Yeah.
Anyway, the guy that was interviewing us turned around and said, no, we want your electronics expertise. We don't know anything about the machinery that we're getting. And it was Lysic machinery at the time. And we want somebody that can understand the programming and how it works. So, so I took that role on and I became a maintenance engineer. I also joined the reserves and was offered a commission in the reserves.
Right.
So I didn't want to fully remove myself from the Air Force because I still wanted that family attachment.
Yeah.
You probably in the army you get it as well. You have friends and you get a family attachment. So I wanted to try and break. I wanted to break from the Air Force, but I still wanted to be part of it. So I took I was offered and I took a commission in the reserves, and I thought brilliant. So it worked in twofold. I was learning a new role as a maintenance engineer, starting at the bottom, and I was also in charge of other people in the reserves, if that makes sense. So I had the management role as well, which done me incredibly good in civil life, because I ended up with the factory I was working. I ended up as service manager, and so that interaction between the two really did well. And I don't know whether it was a step back, or whether it was a career change that I wanted. I was offered to be the first engineer on the road for Lysic in the UK.
We'll come on to that. Before we go on to that, let's go back to your military deployments. So when you did your, after you'd done your training, where did you go?
I went to Honington over in Norfolk, and I did 3 years at Honington before I was posted to Larbrück in Germany. And then I was again in Rollbay, again bomb disposal. That was all part of it. And after 3 years at Larbrück, I was offered my fitters course. So I was sent back to, as it happened, Marham. So I was sent back to Marham, and I did about 3 months of Marham before I went on my fitters course, which was 6 months at Cosford, just down the road from me. So I did my fitters course, and then from there I was posted back to Marham, and posted to the bomb dump, exactly where I worked before. And even though 3 years later I was involved, and let's go back a stage. First of all, when I got back to Marham, I got, I don't know if it's interesting, but the Air Force were doing a magazine at the time, and it was of different roles. You could open it up and you could effectively look through different roles and everything you were going through. So I got the opportunity at Marham, with being a new junior technician, of being on that cover, as being an armourer.
So you got slapped, crazy, you had to get beers in.
So I got, I had to buy beers in. But there was a photo opportunity there, and as I forgot to bring in, but we're on our wall at home is me with hair even. That's how young I was. So we did that, and I was there then. 3 years later, I was promoted to corporal, and oddly enough, Marham Bumdum had a space for a corporal, so I actually stayed there. So I did 7 years in total at Marham before I was posted back to Germany at Bruggen. Just as the war was kicking off, and I think it would have been first Gulf War.
1990, 91.
So I was posted back there. I arrived in '89. I was just at the end of '89, so I was lucky to see the Berlin Wall come down. And I've been on both sides. In my early times in Germany, I went to the eastern side. Strange enough, I don't know if you've ever been there,
No.
but strange enough, you wear number one uniform. And the reason, that's twofold, you wear number one uniform. First of all, if you're in a military uniform, normal military uniform, working fatigues, you're classed as an aggressor. Up the eastern side.
On the east side, yeah.
Yeah. If you're in civvies, you're classed as a spy. If you're in number ones, you're classed as if you're a visitor.
Yeah, okay.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, whenever we went on public transport, it was free. And it was free because we were classed as conquering forces. So we have to pay on the London Underground, but we did have to pay in Berlin.
Well, hopefully we'll come on to, lack of appreciation
Yes.
and what we don't get. Not that we all want something free, but anyway, we'll probably come on to that. So Bruggen, just
Bruggen,
outside
yes.
Mönchengladbach.
Yes.
I know it because
Exactly.
I was posted there at 14 Geo Squadron for a little while
Okay.
at JHQ.
Yeah.
How'd you find that?
I found it interesting, actually, very good. When I got to Bruggen, we did it was when I started research and development, and we went on to a project that was being named there, and we were commonly known as around the station as who team, and it was quite remarkable. The attention to detail. We'd started off with nothing. We got a building that was dedicated to us in the bomb dump there, and we ended up with a porta cabin being put there, and the team was assembled over the space of about 3 months. So I was right at the beginning, and then we had a full team after about 3 months, and we then worked with some projects that I won't go into, but we worked with some projects, and part of the development and part of the enhancement of the equipment was there. And then the First Iraq War, of course, kicked off, and the equipment we were working on was used in the First War, and it was decided that we were the only people that knew how the system worked, and therefore we would not be deployed. So I missed out on the first Gulf War, if you call it missing out. I feel sorry for anybody that was forced to actually to work, to be involved in it, and very proud that they worked in it.
Yeah.
So we stopped the work we were doing, and we moved to Bruggen-Bracht, and our mission there was just uploading bombs and that for the first war, onto trains and such like.
Yeah.
So that was our involvement in it. We didn't actually go there, and that lasted a few months. That was okay, and we went back then to what we were doing, and then of course options for change came up, and it was when I finished at Bruggen. I at that time had taken options for change. So as soon as we finished, I was out, and I was posted back to Cosford, as it happened, as an instructor, and I didn't actually teach a class. I was a qualified instructor, but I didn't teach a class, because as soon as I arrived, I had my resettlement leave, any leave I had left, etc. I had to hand him a notice, for want of a better word, my ID card and that.
Was it 12-month notice period then? Or how long did you have to give?
It was about 4 months.
Oh,
It was very quick.
Yeah.
It was down to the station commander at the time, and I thought he was nasty, because we'd about the November, we'd go October possibly. We said that we're going for options for change, and he'd stated that everybody that was on his station that had gone for option for change had to be off by Christmas.
Right.
So we were sent back to the UK. Now, at the time, I thought, this has been a bit nasty.
Yeah.
However, my hat's off to him, because I don't know if it's the same in the army, but in the last 3 months you're in the military, in the Air Force certainly, you have to pay for your removal expenses. So by him, I was out in the April, so by him getting us off by Christmas, it was 4 months. So I was booked back from Germany
At the expense
of the military.
Yeah.
I was based at Donington, just down the road, and so I had to move from Donington to wherever we lived. And as it happened, I gave my wife the choice. I said, look, I really don't have anywhere in the UK that I will call home. So anywhere you want. If she wanted to go back to family, Wolverhampton, perfect.
Just
so it was just down the road.
That was good then. So were you over there living in a quarter, married?
Married quarter, yes.
Married quarter in Bruggen.
Yeah, exactly.
So you, so then you came back to the UK, option for change. You put in your notice. Well, when you were over there, you came back, and then you had all your resettlement. So when I left, I think it was a 12-month notice period. I think I left, put my notice in 2009, and I'd gone by March 2010.
Yeah.
I think some people could have left earlier. It just depended on
what you're going into.
I guess that was if you had something lined up, then. So when the army at that point were probably a little bit more caring, I guess, because it was in the noughties, not in the 80s and the 90s. They basically, and I'm not selling them as a perfect employer here, but they basically said, if you got something to go to, they'd judge it on a case-by-case basis. You could probably leave.
Air Force was the same.
If you wanted to. But if you didn't, then I guess, you'd have your 12 months and you'd have your resettlement period as well. And I don't think I maximised my resettlement. Did you?
No. There was two things. One, we were obviously moving from married course, we had to buy a house. So we were involved in buying a house. And then secondly, and this is probably where we fell through the system, if you like, of the lack of support, is even though I'd come out by then, the job centre as it was then, it was saying, go away for 6 months, get the military out of your system, and then we'll see about getting a job.
And that's interesting, because when I left, they were saying that you will get a job and you will have left that within 6 months, because it won't be what you want to do.
Yes.
Because and as it was, I joined a school and I did enjoy it, and I could have seen myself doing it, but actually it didn't pay enough for me. So then I left and did something else, and that was within the first 6 months. So it's interesting that they said back then, go away for 6 months, decompress, do something other than.
I often look at it as being a mistake, because I settled in the 6 months, we'd moved in, everything was fine. But I felt then, when I had to go and get a job, I felt I don't really want to work. Because I had 6 months off. But I very quickly.
You can see how people are like that nowadays.
Yeah,
but anyway, it's a different story.
You can. Yeah, different story. So I was begrudgingly, and then I went for interviews, and it was easier then to get a job, much easier than it is nowadays. So I managed to get a job fairly quickly. The job centre was excellent, it helped. They have, I don't know if viewers would like to hear this, but they have twofold. They have an upstairs and downstairs in job centre. And they fill the upstairs first with all the key jobs, the executive jobs, that sort of thing. And anything else is fed downstairs. So I was lucky enough that the role I got was actually higher tier. I ended up fairly quickly, they knew my qualifications, they knew what I'd done, and so I ended up in a role that, even though I didn't know, I was uniquely qualified for it, if that makes sense, because the electronic side of it, fault finding, using a meter, that sort of thing, was all second nature. So even though I didn't know the machinery as such, Nobody else knew it either.
How did they know you had these skills?
Um,
Because
but-
as an armourer, I guess,
Yes.
you know, that's not a. Is it a typical armourer's skill set?
Skills that you
Oh.
need, because you need it on anything from roll equipment, fault finding on roll equipment,
Yeah.
missiles,
Yeah.
guided weapons,
Yeah.
anything like
Right,
that. You would
okay.
need the
So that
electronics.
was in your CV.
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
they read it. They understood what's in your CV. Do you get any help writing a CV? Or do you have to do it
No.
yourself?
I didn't actually do it
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I don't know what CVs are like nowadays because it's been a long time since I had an interview. But
It's hard.
I think it's going to be pretty hard to write a CV
Yeah.
that stands out.
That stands out above the crowd.
And I think when we left, you know, I think having that ex or military experience, hopefully, automatically made you stand out.
There's
at
two
least.
things I learnt from writing the CV. First of all, the CV has to be for the role you're going for.
Mm.
So you need to make it very much. If I was going to be a parts delivery, you need to highlight your driving experience.
Mm.
They're not interested in electronics because you're parts delivery.
Mm.
Vice versa, if you're doing an electronics job but you drive, your electronics experience needs to come first. And the second thing I learned is put something on the top corner, and I used to use a red triangle right away across the top corner, because your CV stands out in a pile. We've got 20,000 other CVs, but yours stands out because it's different, just looks different. I remember that because I had the red mark on it. You know what I mean? So you have to write a CV for the job you're in, and you have to make your CV stand out. Because in later life, we'll go on to this, but in later life, when I was MD of a company, a CV would pass my desk and I would read the first paragraph. I'm not interested in his school results, I'm not interested in what he did 20 years ago,
Yeah.
I want what he does now.
Mm.
That's the important thing for us when we were employing anybody. So a lot of CVs, I would read the first few lines, and if it didn't catch me, next one. And that's how a lot of employers nowadays look at CVs.
And I guess when you were there, applying, there would have been something in there that said ex-RAF armourer or something with electrical experience or in these techniques, fault finding. And
Exactly.
actually, yeah, he's ex-military, so we know he's going to hopefully turn up on time.
Yeah.
Probably turn up on time, and he's got some discipline, and he knows about electronics, which at that point
Exactly.
he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh. So you then went into that role, having left. You found a new home.
Brand new home, yes.
Bought that yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's a difficult step in anyone's life.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the most. I don't know what the statistics are, but it's probably got to be up there with the most stressful period of someone's life.
Definitely. Yeah.
But you've left the military. You bought a home in an area of the country that you didn't know.
Really know.
Your wife did, kind of.
Yeah, wife knew it, and she very much wanted to be back with family. I can understand it, but I'd taken her away from her family and everything, and worse still, I'd taken her to a foreign country, even. So she was even further. And back then, of course, you didn't have emails, you didn't have smartphones, you couldn't call somebody on WhatsApp, or whatever.
Yeah.
So everything was done by letter. Now, fortunately enough, our family came out and saw us for a couple of weeks, once or twice a year, and that was great. But you didn't have the interaction you have now.
No.
That's for sure.
Do you have kids?
Yes.
So you didn't have kids at the time? Did you?
We didn't. No, when we first married, we didn't. Christine had a daughter, and so loved her the bits. She moved with us, and it was a wrench for her because all of a sudden, when I met Christine, she gave up everything to move with me. We weren't even married at the time, but she gave up everything to move with me.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot with our daughter, was 100%. And so we then had two sons of our own, and we ended up as a family unit, and we still keep in touch now. And in fact, our daughter lives not too far away. One of the sons lives fairly close to us, and the other one is over in Norfolk, Suffolk, shall I say now? Get them mixed up, but Suffolk. So we are still very close, and we talk. You know, interaction probably once or twice a week. You know, so it's very close knit.
You're shining a bad light on me now, because I very rarely speak to my sisters and my brothers and my mother and my father. But anyway,
my family I don't speak to. I speak to one of my sisters, and recently I've been in touch with my second sister. They were twins. My second sister, but she's in Ireland, and I very rarely speak to her. My brothers, I don't speak to at all. Both my parents are dead, so I don't speak to them, obviously. But yeah, the last time I saw them was at my mum's funeral, which is
not out of malice. Just
no, not just
life.
Just life goes on.
Are you gonna have a biscuit?
Yes.
Because let's have a biscuit, because
Okay.
I like my biscuits. So when you left, you then joined the RAF though, as a
Reservist,
as an officer.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I was fortunate
I'm gonna
enough
have a biscuit now. I'm gonna need to while we're talking.
when I first had a look at it, and I didn't want to, twofold. I didn't want to really give up the Air Force side of the community and all that sort of thing, because it is a community. But I also wanted to give something back. You know, they'd given me 15 years and a lot of training in that time, and I was glad for that. I saw a lot of friends at the time, and they were in, dare I say, dead-end jobs. But the chances of getting promotion are really slim.
In the military still?
No, they weren't in the military, in civil life.
Oh, sorry, left, yeah.
One of my closest friends at the time, his father was a farmer. So it was guaranteed that he was going to be a farmer, and that's all he thought about. And that's fine. If that's his passion, perfect. But he would only ever be in that role. He didn't look out if there's something else, you know. And I remember when I went to tech college, I could pick a choice, and the careers guy at the time had come round to the school, and he said to us, "You're either going to repair tractors or you're going to work on them, because that's all they didn't know of it." And I thought, there's got to be more to life than this, you know. So I did electronics at college, and they had to do a secondary course. So I picked, you know, what's going to be useful to me. I do motor vehicle technology. So I did a lot of the two courses. One was electronics, one was motor vehicle technology, literally how a car works, from electrics to motors to everything about a car. So I thought that would do me good growing up when I learned to drive and all that sort of thing. It's going to put me in good stead. So I did them two courses. But my friend was adamant that when he left school, he was going to work on the farm and he was going to be a farmer. And as far as I know, he's still, we have not been in touch, but as far as I know, he still is. So that's the way his career path took him. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for the farmers, by the way, because they feed us. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for them. So, but I feel it was too much of a blinkered vision for me. I wanted to do something different.
So what unit did you join as a reservist?
Reservist, I was originally, they don't have units in the Air Force.
Right.
So it's an army thing. I joined and I was in charge, as it happened, of a. I did about 3 until eventually I left in the as a flight lieutenant. But a lot of it was based around the Air Training Corps, and a lot of it was just running to make sure the squadrons were in the right order and
From where?
They went.
Where were you geographically?
I did originally. I did Wolverhampton, and then I went further across to out towards Merry Hill now. It's a terrible memory. I can't think of the name of it, but it's out towards Merry Hill. And so we had quite big. It was the Staffordshire and Training Corps.
Right.
So I was, affiliated with them, and we did quite a bit.
Yeah.
But nothing against the Air Training Corps, but the only thing I found was the majority of people that were in the Air Training Corps had never ever served. And they wanted to be part of something, but they never really had the expertise, if you like, of being, or the experience of being here. So I found that quite difficult in quite a bit. And they did, don't get me wrong, they did a fantastic job. But it wasn't the career path I was after following. So I did about 7 years of that, and I thought, no, I left that. I was working on the road anyway, so it was a bit more difficult for me being away as an engineer on the road for Isaac. And I moved into the office and set up a technical support for them. So I ended up, technical support. I've got my eye on this one here.
Yeah. So you, so when you left, you bought a house. Your wife and your daughter at the time, you only had one child, moved back to Donington or Wolverhampton or somewhere close by here. And you didn't really, I'm putting words into your mouth here, I'm not sensing, I'm asking really, what sort of support did you get from the RAF to help you transition? Because I said I didn't utilise my resettlement very well. I think I went on a plastering course, which I've done once at my mum's house, and I made a mess of it, so I sacked that off. And I think I did a plumbing course as well, because I thought, well, I've been in engineers, they have plasterers and finishers and plumbers and chippies and bricklayers, and I was a technical, I was a surveyor, I guess. So I didn't do any of those, but I liked it. So as part of my resettlement, I did that, and I touched it once or twice. I've done some home plumbing. And that's about the extent of the use of my resettlement. I think what carried me into my civilian career wasn't necessarily that resettlement. It was the training that I'd had up to then. I wasn't. I joined like yourself as a private. I joined as an apprentice in '99, and then I did. And then you go into a full army unit, I guess, after you leave the apprentice college at 16. Did my combat engineer training, and then I joined the geospatial regiment of the Royal Engineers, and my training there led me into a position where you were always very often on your own at a unit. You were the only geospatial support at a unit, so you were taught to look after yourself, or I say taught, it just became you had to look after yourself, and those that could do it were okay, and those that struggled, found it difficult. But so I suppose my career lended itself to working on my own, looking after myself, and then I got married, and my wife followed me, thankfully around with me. So I was quite independent myself, and I was in a position in most places where you were commanding the room, where they wanted to know what the battle space looked like from a geospatial perspective. So therefore you were communicating to them, and they wanted some stuff from you, and you were briefing them. So that type of relationship was great for a geo guy, because it builds up your confidence, and then you're moving after 2 years, you go into another unit, and you're going somewhere else. So that type of career for me helped me be able to transition from military life to civilian quite easily. But how did your resettlement or training help you resettle?
Resettlement really didn't help me, and that was probably my choice rather than the Air Force. They were very good resettlement, but I did. First of all, I did my instructor's course because one of the other options I had, if I was going to be moving back to the Wolverhampton area, was to be a civilian instructor at Cosford.
Yeah.
So part of my resettlement was to do an instructor's course, which I did.
Yeah.
But the secondary course I did was electrical appliance repair, which is basic domestic repair. Your microwaves, dishwashers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I thought, again, when I was in the home, I'd be able to repair these items.
Yeah.
You know, that was what it was all about. So it didn't lend me to a career path, but it also, being the instructor, gave me the confidence to speak. Because so many people they clam up and they don't like conversations and they don't like talking to people, etc. Me, I'm pretty much outgoing. I'm not as outgoing as some, and I'm not as introvert as some, but I don't mind talking to anybody. So I would put that down to the experience, the instructor experience. You were standing up front of the class, you had to teach the class, you know. And the bit that always drummed into me, and I, you know, if teachers are watching, then at the end of the day, if a student does not know the problem, or does not know the answer, or does not understand it, you are not teaching it correctly. Because if you taught it correctly, they would know. So explain it to them, explain it properly, and break it down. And one of the things I've very much learned with the resettlement in the Air Force is teach it properly, everybody understands. If they don't understand, teach it again. You know, don't get angry with them. You're doing something wrong, not them. You're doing something wrong. So it steered me in good for interviews and everything else that I was doing in civilian life to get jobs, etc. I was able to speak, so it didn't really cause me any problems. So it really didn't help me in as much as my career path, but it helped me to be able to talk. So that was quite handy in that respect.
And then so that all that package, I guess, your career up to date, you've now left, you've now got a job, and how did that? What was your next steps from them? Because that was, I guess, in '93.
93, yeah, end of '93.
And now we're in 2026. So what's happened?
Yeah, lots happened since then. I started off. I was as a maintenance engineer for a glass firm that was in Birmingham at the time. They'd had some new equipment come in, some Liza equipment, some Austrian equipment, and I was in charge of everything that was on the shop floor. So they used to make your double glazed units effectively, and there's machinery that assembled that and cleaned it and assembled it, etc. So from there, I was poached by Lysic themselves. They were setting up they'd already had a UK office, a sales office, but they didn't have anybody to do any servicing or maintenance. They relied on the Austrian parent company to send engineers across. So I was the first on-road engineer for the UK, and I went all over the UK and repaired the machineries. So I then had a bit of falling out with the MD, and I moved to one of our competitors for about 8 months. And while I was at the competitors, I got a phone call from the director that was in charge of Northern Europe at the time for Lysic, and he said, "We want to meet up. We want you to set up a technical support in the UK." I had my reservations about it because I knew the MD. He informed me that the MD was no longer there, and there was a new MD in place, him, and he wanted to meet up, and we actually met up Telford train station, of all the places. We had a cup of coffee there, and we had a conversation. Yes, exactly.
There were nicer train stations.
There were nicer ones, definitely, but it's certain to purchase.
Yeah.
So I ended up moving back to Lysic again, and setting up in the office a technical support, because I was at the age where it was twofold. One, it was something that I was interested in, and two, it got me off the road because I was fed up with driving up and down the country. So it was time to get office based. I saw more of the family because I was away an awful lot of the time. I was away in the forces, and I was away in civilian life, and it got to the stage where my two sons had asked, my wife then, Mummy, has Dad left? Because he's no longer there. Because I was getting in when they'd gone to bed, and I was getting up and going out before they got up for school. So
it sounds like that will ring true with lots of military people anyway.
Yes.
But you're not even in the military then.
I was in civilian life.
Civilian life, and that's kind of the reason why I left, because I wanted to have kids and I wanted to be at home every day and night. At least to be there so that they're not, not talking derogatory about pad brats. But when you're living on the patch, you see a lot of the children that their mothers, fathers, they're away for 6-9 months of the year, and then they're back for a couple of months, and then during 2003 to 2010, you were back-to-back tours quite regularly. So people were away a lot, parents were away a lot, and I thought to myself, I grew up on a farm here in Shrewsbury, or just outside, so I knew what it's like to be at home, having your parents at home every day. Although farmers, they're always out all day, you didn't really see them.
Out at dawn and in a dusk type thing.
A bit like you.
Not dusk now,
Yeah. So so I wanted to get out, to have children. I didn't want to have children in the military, and I wanted to have a career where I was, I guess, at home a bit more. Mm-hmm. As it so happened, it sounds like I did something similar to you. I then went into a job that was very military-like. I worked at school for a little while, and then I went to be a consultant for a company that provided services to the military.
Right.
And I became a consultant, and therefore I was travelling away, 6 months contracts, 12 months contracts here or there. Mm. You were never in one place quite regular enough to call it home. So I kind of did what I said I wasn't going to do. I had two children quite quickly, and I wasn't home very often. My wife said to me this weekend only, that our eldest said to her, "Oh, is Daddy going to see his other children this week?" And I was staying with a couple called Haley and Ross, and she assumed at the age of 1 or 2 that Haley and Ross were my other children. So that I'd forgotten all about that. I think Stacey told me, but so I've basically fallen into the trap. It sounds like of not being at home.
You think you're doing right, but you're not doing right by your family. But you think you're doing right because you're earning the money, you're getting the working, etc.
And you're away all the time.
You're away all the time because of it. So it has a detrimental effect you don't really see until something sparks it off, and you think, "Whoa, hang on a minute, got to put the brakes on it and change."
And you did.
I changed. I set up a technical support for Lysick in the UK, and they were in Newport, Telford at the time, and we moved into some premises in Telford, as it happened, and career progressed, and I became various MDs. The Austrians have a way of every 3 years they would change MD, which didn't help matters, but that was the way their work ethic was. So we had several MDs at that time, and I became service manager at the time, which was great. I now oversee a department, more my role. In years to come, I then became service director, and by overseeing that, I was also out seeing customers, etc. But I was only away for a couple of days, and by then, pretty much our kids had grown up anyway, and so we didn't create too much of a problem. I was very lucky, in fact, because the owner of the company unfortunately died, and he split the company between his sons and daughters. He had 2 daughters, 2 sons, and he split the company. One became Lysick, the sons, and the other was Malpar, which was the daughters. but still under the Lysick name. So I was with the Malpass side, with UK, and there was various other places around the world. And so I became, rather than have an Austrian director, which was the Lysick side of it, I was able to become the managing director for the UK under the Malpass side. And I was that for 7 years. We did really well 7 years. And the infighting between the sisters and the brothers culminated in them amalgamating again and becoming Lysick again under one name.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I'd also, had about 6 months earlier, I had my stroke, and so I was in the office, but I was working a lot from home, and we'd not long come through the COVID times and all that sort of thing, and the hierarchy of Lysick came and saw me and they said, you know, grateful for what you've done, but we're going to now go back to the Lysick, to the Austrian system every 3 years, have a new MD. But we want to offer you early retirement if you wanted anyway. And because of my health, I thought, you know what, I'm going to take early retirement. So I was MD for about 7 years, worked up from being on the road right the way up to the top, so anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know, I hate people that say, I don't like my job, do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, only you control that, so
You know what?
you can change
That's
it.
a really interesting point, because my first ever section commander when I was at the apprentice college, Corporal Stan Boardman, I will always remember, he always said to us when we moved on from the apprentice college, he said to us, our section, you know, if you're ever stuck in a rut, the only person that can get you out of that rut is you. And I've always remembered that. You know, it was a long time ago, 99. I always remember that, because if I ever get to a position where I'm a bit bored or I don't like what I'm doing, then you know, only you can do something about that. And a lot of people will tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that, but you don't listen to them.
Yeah.
But you've got to make the decision
Yourself.
So that resonates with me, and it should do with most people.
Should do, yes.
And you should really listen to that. You know, if you're struggling, the only person that can really help you out is yourself.
Yeah, do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you started like me. You started at the bottom. You've worked your way up now, so much so that you now, have your own business. So people that turn around and say, like, I'm stuck and this is the job I'll do, and no prospects or whatever. Find prospects. There is something out there that will suit you, and it may be totally different to what you're doing now, but it will be something to suit you. And as you said before, the only person that can drive you forward is yourself. So you've got to drive yourself forward to do it, and anybody can do it.
I think that's a really interesting point. You know, it's taken us 50 minutes to get to this point, and it hasn't intentionally got to there, but that's a really important thing. You know, especially that career transition.
Yeah.
What was your family? Did you say when you were younger? What your family? Your father was in the army.
My father was a medic. He didn't like me becoming an armourer, but there you go.
So your father was a medic. Your mother?
Yeah, mother was a nurse.
No, mother was a nurse. And you joined the RAF.
Yeah.
My father was a farmer. My mother was she was a cheese grader in the dairy industry, you know, and if she's watching this, she'll say this isn't how it happened, but she dragged me down to the Greer's office, you know, said there's no money in farming, you're going to join the military, which I was grateful for, looking back on it, you know, and then joining the army as an engineer because I wanted to be a bricklayer. And then when I'd gone through my trade training, they said, no, you've got GCSEs. I didn't get great GCSEs because I was a lazy sod. And I was a bloke, I suppose. But I came out with GCSEs and the engineers said, no, you don't want to be a bricklayer. You should do something technical. So then I was going to be a design draftsman because I did design like an architect. I did that at school.
Okay.
I didn't get to C, I got a D, but anyway, that's not an advert for being successful.
Yeah.
And then when I was going to choose that as a technical trade, a friend of mine was in the geo element of the engineers, and another friend of mine was in the mainstream engineers. You know, there's a bit of a rivalry there, I guess, because technical trades versus non-technical trades. There's always that different levels of pay and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, they're both saying, "Oh, don't be a mainstream engineer, be a geo engineer. Come down and do the aptitude." You know, this is just how life meanders, right?
Yeah, it does. It goes up and down as you go through. Yeah.
So I went to the aptitude, and you had to be able to, you know, do trigonometry and see in stereo, and you know, not be too thick. And I passed. And but then I had to make a decision. You know, do I want to be a geo guy or do I want to be a design draftsman? I quite liked being a design draftsman. I quite liked the idea of being a design draftsman because there was a technical route
anyway,
to it. And although it's frowned upon because you get promoted quickly in that, you know, in the mainstream engineers. But anyway, I quite fancied that. And then what swung it for me was they had a good chef and they had a single man room with a toilet, ensuite toilet.
Spot on.
Well, it wasn't a toilet, it was a sink. But anyway, you get my,
Yeah.
you know, so that was when I joined Geo, and you know, and I didn't know where I was going to go, you know, from school. I ended up being Geo, and as you're Geo, as I said before, you end up going to a headquarters element, which gives you a little bit more self-control. You're isolated. You're learning to look after yourself, but also gives you a level of security clearance.
Yes.
So as you go to a headquarters element, you have to have your secret level of clearance or whatever you may require a higher level, and then you know, as a pure fluke, having that at the age of 21, working in UK counter-terrorism role, it opened up more doors. And then when you leave, you still have that level of clearance for a period of time. So you've then got other avenues which weren't necessarily in geo element, but it meant that I could take at least that one core thing, which is my clearance, and I could apply that to any other trade, and I could learn the skills of software engineering or software testing or project management, because you might have them anyway. So it's just interesting that there, you know, we talked about my career, your career went in different ways because that's the way naturally it went. But also you forced it. You said, actually, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to be a mainstream engineer. I'm going to go here because it's got a good chef in that single man rooms as opposed to 8-man rooms. You know, those decisions are yours to make.
You get a, you know, people say, oh yeah, you've got the opportunities, but you make the opportunities, and they are, in some respects, given to you, but you've forged the path so that the option is there. If you don't forge the path through, even in civilian life, and in military is the same, but if you don't force your path through, you don't get the opportunities, and you're not going to go anywhere, and nobody is going to see that because they think you're happy with what you're doing and you don't want anything else. Well, you've got to, as you say, make that decision one way or another, whichever you go, commit to it. If it's wrong, change it. There was a book given to me, and it was a little book, and I'll recommend it to anybody. It is called Where's My Cheese? I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Very thin book, and it's about two mice, and one is happy because the den he's in is full of cheese, so he's happy with it. The other one is in there with him when he thinks, well, sooner or later this cheese is going to run out. I need to find another cheese. So he wanders off in various career paths. As it happened, this mouse, different areas, finds a bit of cheese, doesn't like that cheese, moves on, and so on, until eventually he comes to a vast sword of cheese that he's really happy with. The guy that stayed where he is, his cheese runs out and he dies. So it's a very small book, but it is very, very relevant. And it says if you're happy where you are, fine, but don't expect it to last forever. Otherwise, you've got to forge your way through and find other opportunities. So I recommend that book to anybody.
Well, where's my cheese? I'm
Where's
going to
My
try
Cheese?
and find
It
that.
is a very small book. You can get it online.
Do you know what we haven't talked about? And we are a medal company. And
Yes.
you came here to have your medals mounted. Your medals that you were awarded by Her Majesty?
Majesty, only a couple. One is my Island Medal, Northern Ireland, and for the troubles that were there, because I did a tour out there. And the other one is just long service.
Right.
The other two that I've got are commemorative medals, which you do, which are excellent ones. I thought, as I was part of the NATO Rapid Reaction Force, at the time, I thought, you know what, a NATO medal would be very nice. And the other one is British Forces Germany, two tours in Germany. So even though you don't get official medals for them, it was nice that you were able to get commemorative medals and go, you know what, I was there, I did that. And it's handy to explain to somebody what they're for or what they do, apart from looking nice. You know, as long as well as your military issued medals, it's nice to have that little bit that's not officially recognised, but you can talk about it and you think, yeah, that looks, you know,
And there are
So
so many older generations that served in so many different areas of the world that weren't recognised
at the time,
and that's
or
and
whatever.
that's understandable and but there was I went to the National Arboretum this weekend and my daughter even commented, so we went and sought out some of my colleagues that passed away and I found their names on the wall and we looked at the sections for 2003 to 2019 and it was tiny. I know there was a lot of people that died in that period.
And you think yourself,
but then when we looked at the 1949 to 1959 part of the war, it was like, what was going on in these years? Why have we lost
so many
thousands of people in this period of time? And there were so many operations that weren't recognised and that people fought in or were deployed towards. And I think that's why I bought this company last year, and my predecessors, were approached to forge these commemorative medals on behalf of thousands of people that served in areas that weren't recognised. And that's why we do them, and that's why it's important that a lot of people like to at least wear them underneath, not with, but
wear them
underneath their official ones, and their official ones. I'm hugely proud of the ones that I have, my Iraq and my Afghanistan one, and you should be hugely proud of your Northern Ireland, long service one, and we're going to draw this to a close now. I appreciate the time that you spent to come and speak to us, and hopefully we had a little brief conversation before. I've learned loads about you, and also how we can then talk about with future interviews that we may have about about that transition. And we've laboured on quite a bit, and we haven't necessarily dug deep into anything political or anything, because I know you have some strong feelings about the lack of support that people get post leaving. Hopefully, perhaps we'll do a part 2 on that.
Why not?
Specifically on that. So thank you, Colin,
You're welcome.
for coming in. Thank you very much for your service.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome, Nathan. Thank you for yours. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, sir.
Thank you. Cheers. Take care.